everybody. Welcome back to the podcast with me, Madre. And, oh yeah, Ash is here too.
Don't worry, I'm here.
No, really, I'm not taking over. I just had nothing else to do. And I was asked, and of course I want to come back and chat about Scooby-Doo. So we are now on chapter 5.
Yes.
This one is called For Letter or Worse.
The puns.
The puns. I love them. They're so funny. So.
Oh, it just dawned on me.
What?
Letter, because they were like picking out Letter, you know, the game show.
Oh.
Took me how long to get this?
We've been like, tick-tock, tick-tock. All right,
I get it.
So let me explain so that they can get it now. Okay, so what it is the setting starts at this HBTV studio where it's doing a game show. And in order for you to get the feel of the game show, it's kind of like Wheel of Fortune, where a letter at a time goes up on the board and they have to pick a letter. But instead of spinning the wheel, they're actually sitting up on shelves with fishing poles. And they have to fish for the letter, pull it up, and see if that comes up. And very cute. So they call it For Letter because they're fishing for letters. Yes. Or worse, for better or worse. Yeah. Okay. We all get it. Yeah. All right. So I feel like I've just totally hijacked this thing.
You're going. So I just wanted to say I'm so glad Madre Anissa said she'd come back. I didn't annoy her or scare her the last time with all my Scooby just coming out. Bleh.
Trivia. Psha.
And we actually have a live audience right now. Angie, she's stuffing her face.
What else do I do besides eat?
So we have a live audience, and I'm excited because now we can get actual live reactions to our podcast right now.
Question our questions.
Yes.
So I make commentary, so I don't know if y'all can hear me, but like, it's gonna happen.
So, like she said, we are on chapter 5, For Letter or Worse. Now, I want to clear something up from last week. I said last week was chapter 4, and the DVD had it as episode 3. There's confusion going on. It is either... Last week was either episode 3 or not. I don't even know. So it's whatever you want to believe. The episode, the Schnook who took my comic book, is episode 3 or 4. Whatever you want to believe. It's
whatever number you want to go with the title. We're going with the title.
Yeah, really.
It was the Schnook who stole my comic book, and this week it's For Letter or Worse. Whatever number you want to put with it. Ready, set, go.
This one is officially 5. It was just that one and Wanted, Cheddar, Alive, or Confusing.
5 Scooby-Doos. Sorry.
Christmas.
It's Christmas.
All right, who do you want to start with this week?
Well, of course, the king. Go Fred.
Fred Jones.
Because this week, we're going to let everybody know about the Scooby-Doo Detective Agency.
Yeah, I was surprised.
Like, we titled it all of a sudden.
Oh, you didn't know that?
I didn't know that we had titled it.
Well, let me catch you up on this. So, the very first episode, they basically give them their group a title. Anyway, yeah, the Scooby-Doo Detective Agency. They're not Mystery Inc. or this. Sometimes they'll refer to them as the Scooby Gang, but
okay.
In the first episode, they have a treehouse, which I'm sure we'll see more. We didn't see it this episode, but yeah, they have a treehouse. I'm not sure like whose house it's at. Might be Shaggy's, but anyway, and it's funny because, you know, it's the super tall tree and whatever, and we're like, me and Mariah were joking, we're like, they're trying to be super discreet, and then at the bottom there's this sign that says, the Scooby-Doo Detective Agency. We're like, so discreet, no one will know who they are, just, anyway, yeah, so they are the Scooby-Doo Detective Agency in this series, as of right now, before they get their name out and whatever, you know, as they grow up. And now you're caught up.
Yay!
But yeah, Fred wants, like, to tell everyone on TV who they are, what they do. Just let them know that they are available. He's in it for the dough.
He is. We want to get paid.
Which is funny because they never get paid, ever. Even when they're adults.
Yeah.
It's like...
It's always, we're going to visit a friend, but this is happening.
Yeah.
We have to help the friend out. And they never make money.
All the things. They don't get paid, but they have all of it.
Daphne and her money.
But still, you wouldn't think it would just be Daphne. Interesting. Sorry.
Which...
Food for thought.
I mean, well, yeah, because in the second live-action film, Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed, they have, like, their own building where they do all their work and all their gadgets and all their mystery solving. It's like, where did you get the funding for this? Anyway, yeah, that's going to be interesting. I wonder if we'll ever learn anything going through these. How they
actually get money. And paid and, yeah.
Because there's always moments when, like, they're unmasking the villain or whatever, and an undercover detective comes in and is like, good job, kids. We've been trying to capture them in months, and you did this in a night. It's like,
Reward money?
Yeah.
But, and you see, like, in the older, or the, I guess, when they're older, I've seen a couple where they have on, like, uniforms, but you never see them, like, it's like, oh, I just quit my job, and they throw them away, and then it's like, so maybe in between,
well,
they maybe have some part-time job.
I know we're going to learn eventually, again, once they're older, obviously not while they're kids, but, well, first of all, in the first episode of this series, Shaggy was a paper boy. So there's that. I mean, obviously that's not going to fund
chump change.
But we do learn once they become adults, Fred becomes a book writer at one point. I believe that was said in like a cartoon episode, like the new Scooby-Doo Mysteries, and I want to say that was said in the first live-action film once they regroup. But then it's also learned that in the new Scooby-Doo Mysteries episode that I'm thinking of, which is titled Happy Birthday, Scooby-Doo.
Okay.
That Velma went to go work for NASA. So Velma might have brought in the dough there.
Girls pulling computers out of suitcases. She's got to have a little bit of stash somewhere.
Yeah, really.
Inventor.
Ooh, and we should bring that up right now, speaking of computers. Angie brought up while we were watching the episode, is later on she doesn't have this big computer in the suitcase. What happens to it? So we'll have to put a pin in that for later on.
Sticky notes. I mean, obviously technology is going to change throughout the timeline and everything. But well, and yeah, I don't know. Yeah, we'll have to learn.
Maybe if she works for NASA, they take it over and redo it into something else.
Last night, I was watching the live-action film Daphne and Velma. That's what it's titled. And it's kind of the origins of Daphne and Velma. And in that movie, Velma, like, has all these inventions that she made and whatever. And there's twice in the movie when she has to destroy a robot that she created to build something else. And it's funny, that one, like the second one you don't really see, you just hear a sound effect. But the first one, like, you see, and she's like, I'm like, I can't believe I gave a robot human emotions or whatever. And the robot's like, no, don't do it. Like, no, please, Velma. And then, like, she covers her eyes and she has a hammer. And then, like, it goes to the, like, it shows her house, basically. And then you just hear, ah!
My heart!
And I'm like,
I feel like there's a better way to do that.
Turn it off first?
I'll unplug it.
Anyway, so, yeah, I mean, what if she invented this computer?
Ooh, that's a good
But
thing.
you have to take it apart to build something else.
Or it could be, just like the Tamagotchi. A couple of years from now, she'll pop it over. Oh, that's where that went.
Yeah.
Well,
my toe again.
again, in
It's in a box somewhere.
Scooby-Doo 2, there's so many connections going on. But in Scooby-Doo 2, they go to their old clubhouse, and, you know, like, Velma's circling. They're trying to get, or, like, figure out a way to reverse this control panel, which brought monsters to life. They're trying to figure out a way to make this control panel destroy the monsters rather than create. And so she's circling this thing in the middle of the room, and it looks like, I mean, like, a table with, like, a glass, I don't know what they're, like, not an apothecary jar, but like what the rose is in Beauty and the Beast, like that type of thing.
Yeah.
It's almost
the
like
glass cover.
Yeah, it's almost, you see something like that and whatever. Anyway.
The display thing, whatever it is.
Yeah. But she said something like, oh, it's my old, I'm trying to think what she called it. But anyway, it was this huge thing that she made out of, like, an old video game. So this girl can invent.
She can.
So that makes me wonder now, did she make this computer in this suitcase?
Well, she pulled out, she had the suitcase, and then she flipped it open, and the giant light popped up to search through the cave. So it's not just the computer.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
It's a suitcase full of things.
Maybe it's like Hermione's little magic bag.
I was thinking more Mary Poppins.
Same thing.
Holy
Same magic.
That's true. Mary Poppins is a wizard.
That's right.
Anyway, Fred.
Back to Fred.
So he's like so into the idea of getting on TV, more or less. Mm-hmm. When the station eventually goes up for sale, and he's like, no, this can't be. Like, we gotta save it. And I felt like he was more dedicated than Scooby and Shaggy or to get the station saved.
Yeah.
So
he
again,
had a purpose.
He's ready for the dough.
He is.
I put that he also says to split up. I think this is the first time he's said it, period.
Ooh. I wrote split up question mark. Because I haven't seen the first couple of episodes, so I'm like, I never know what Anissa hasn't seen and what the world hasn't seen. Those kind of fit.
Well, as far as I remember, yeah, this is the first time he's saying to split up, which obviously becomes his like major thing for the gang to split up. And right now he's splitting up him and Daphne, which obviously, and then Velma, Shaggy, and Scooby go, which that carries on for the most part. But then there are a handful of episodes where Velma will join Fred and Daphne. So, again, but right now it was the Daphne and Fred and Velma. Yeah, exactly.
In the cartoons, it's mostly the Fred, Daphne, Velma on one side, Scooby and Shaggy. And then in, like, the animated movies, it goes with Velma, Scooby, Shaggy, and then Fred and Daphne. Watching what I had in childhood. I feel like that's the
splits.
The split it goes.
So then, Fred also thinks that aliens are...
He was reading
Martians.
a UFO magazine while sitting waiting for the show to begin. My favorite.
Which, again, makes me feel like he has a little growing up to do still.
Yeah.
Because once they're older, obviously, he's very, like, no, it's not this. He's more in the line with Velma of, like, it's rational. Like, in Zombie Island, he was so set on, like, proving that it's a bad guy in a mask. And then in the recent Curse of the 13th Ghost, he was very, like basically, he wasn't determined to prove them wrong, but basically in denial. He's like, you like caught because in the original 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo series, it was Daphne, Shaggy, and Scooby. Fred and Velma were not in this series, and so they had to explain in the movie what went down and everything. And so Fred was just very in denial. He's like, what? You went on this adventure capturing these real ghosts without me? He's like, why? How did this happen? Everything. And then obviously Velma is very like, no, it's not real. Like, you can't prove it. And anyway, So yeah, but I think it's interesting that right now he is the one that's like, it's aliens, it's real, it's supernatural, it's...
So I wonder, another little post-it note, but I wonder, like, at what point in this one he'll start to switch, kind of get out of his, like, early middle school kind of phase, going, oh, real life, this is, you know, I've got to put fantasy versus real life, because we all reach that point, you know, we all have our fantasies and, you know, things we want them to be true, but we learn in real company not to shout them out. But he's still at the shout out, it's aliens, it's Martians.
Well, I know he'll eventually transfer into a, like, he basically shifts interests. He's definitely the person, like, this will stick with him throughout his whole life of just, like, if he's excited about something, he will blurt it out. If he thinks something, he will blurt it out. Like, it sticks with him, but eventually it transfers into he's obsessed with traps. And he will, you know, like, oh my gosh, like, did you see that trap work? Or if someone else made a trap, he's like, this trap would not work because this string or something. He gets more dedicated to something else. Again, traps. But then once they get the mystery machine, because they don't have it in this series because they're kids, they can't drive, then he also becomes very, I mean, I guess you could say obsessed, but there's a word I'm trying to think of. But he's very protective, I guess, of the mystery machine, and he's like, oh, my baby, and whatever, and like in
the more car guy, the experience.
Yeah. And, well, in Curse of the 13th Ghost movie, he sold it because the cop, what am I trying to think? I can't think of terms tonight. Anyway, basically the sheriff, there we go, the sheriff basically told the gang, like, they need to stop solving mysteries, leave it to the professionals, blah, blah, blah. And so they do this big yard sale, and he sells the mystery machine. And then in Return to Zombie Island, it basically follows up from Curse of the 13th Ghost, as they're still kind of in retirement and the mystery machine is sold. And so the beginning of the movie actually starts with a nightmare of Fred daydreaming, basically, like, that the mystery machine wasn't put into park, and so it rolled down this hill and exploded and whatever. And he, like, wakes up, he's like, no, where is it, and whatever. Anyway, so he goes through the whole movie without the mystery machine, and he keeps thinking he sees it. And then throughout the movie, a look-alike mystery machine comes, and it's like, has big old monster truck tires on it and whatever. And he's just ecstatic. He's like, oh my gosh, like, I don't care that it's not exactly the same, but it's mine, it's back, and whatever. And then there's a movie, Scooby-Doo Franken Creepy, which that one will be really interesting to get into because it has Velma's ancestry history. We learn about her family actually coming from a different country into America, and that's where she got her name Dinkley, because they had to Americanize her name, basically, from an olden name, more or less. And anyways, but that whole film, spoiler alert, is a revenge plot from past villains. Oh, okay. And so the beginning, like, one of the first things the criminals do to get revenge is blows up the mystery machine. And
ouch.
So the whole movie, Fred is just like devastated. He's like, why would they do that? How dare they? And so he's, well, yeah, he's like, whoever destroyed her, and he calls it a her, and he's all, whoever destroyed her is gonna get it. And like, is so dead on whoever blew up this mystery machine is done for. Oh, anyway, funny. So yeah. Alright. That's honestly as much as I have for Fred. Except he did suspect Red Herring again, but Red Herring is actually not in this episode.
Daphne, that was the way she calls him out on it.
Yes.
He's not even in this episode.
Yes, they broke the fourth wall again.
And it shows a picture of Red Herring, and it says, suspect number 3 with Red Herring, and it's like an old picture of him on her computer. Like, Okay, that is hilarious.
So he's at least mentioned, but he's not in the episode. Yeah.
And it was Daphne that was like kind of yelling at me, but she's kind of this whole episode, just like they say, it's a ghost, and she's like, oh, everybody's running around in costumes, and the ghost comes and tries to scare everybody out, and she's just sitting in the bleachers, like filing her nails. Nope, it's not a ghost, I'm not moving, whatever, and it takes like a forklift?
Yep.
Scooby comes in with a forklift and like hauls her out, and that's the only way they'll get her out, because she's like, I'm not even playing this. This is just no.
I think it's so funny that she was so like, oh look, there's a ghost, but like it's not a ghost.
Not a ghost, guy in costume. I'm done. I'm over.
But again, it's with this whole timeline thing that we're going on. It's funny because right now she's the one that's like, ghosts aren't real. Like, you guys need to chill out and whatever. But then, again, I'm connecting things to 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo this week. But in that series, they deal with real ghosts and whatever. And it's only, again, Daphne, Shaggy, and Scooby. Whereas Velma wasn't in in that series, I should say. And then the movie that closes out that series, Velma is so, like, they aren't real. Like, you all hallucinated this and whatever. And Daphne was like, they're real. Like, hello, we dealt with it. And even in Return to Zombie Island, because the original Zombie Island, they were real zombies, real cat creatures and whatever. And Velma experienced that one with them. But then in Return to Zombie Island, Velma was very in denial of it all, basically. And she's like, I'm going to prove that there was something weird going on. Like, again, she's just very into denial. And Daphne's like, no, we saw them disintegrate before our eyes. Like, keep with the program. And then at one point, Velma's like, well, there's cat creatures again. And Daphne's like, crap, cat creatures, we gotta get off this island again. Like, if they're back, then we're dead this time. It's
like, we'll pretend that they don't exist, but oh my gosh, we really saw something happen. And so
it's funny that right now, Daphne's the one that's like, no, it's not real and whatever. So the tables will turn.
Yes.
So yeah, I put that she didn't believe in the ghost. She is still the keeper of the Scooby Snacks.
She is.
She has been the keeper of the Scooby Snacks from the beginning. And then I know once they get older, eventually it gets more handed down to Velma.
Okay.
Because in Zombie Island, when they regroup, Velma's like, look what I've been keeping. I got the Scooby Snacks and whatever. And they're like, these are stale. You've had these for how long?
Time for new Scooby Snacks.
But yeah, she's still the keeper of the Scooby Snacks, and she even ordered a truck of Scooby Snacks for Scooby.
Yeah, because she's like, will you do this for some Scooby Snacks? And he's like, no way. Well, what about a handful of, nope, not gonna do it. What about a truckload? And all of a sudden, bam.
Yeah.
Truckload backs up and dumps out Scooby Snacks. Girl's got money.
Well, this is like one of the first big times we've seen her portrayal of having money. Because I know eventually we will see her butler come, because I think she calls him Jenkins or whatever. And so, like, I don't know if I can't remember if she just calls his name or has like a little bell, but there will be episodes when no matter where they are, she'll just like call her butler.
Ding, ding, ding. He shows up.
Pretty much. And then be like, what did you need, Miss Blake, and whatever. So, but yeah, I feel like this is the first real big
thing she does.
Yeah, with her money.
Okay.
Orders a truckload of Scooby Snacks. Doesn't even bat an eye. She also found a trail of peanut shells. She did some clue hunting.
Detective work in this one.
That's when she was split up with Fred.
Right. And she was also still her fashionista, because when Christina, I thought it was Christina at the beginning.
I thought it was Christina as well.
Because I wrote down Christina and then, at the end, we'll explain. So anyway, she was like, and I love the way she dresses. Look at her pink.
Yeah.
And look at, especially her rings, and like fashionista.
Definitely.
Stuck with that. It works for her. She's doing it. But then for her to go, ooh, peanut shells.
Yeah, right.
It's like, Daphne, why did you notice peanut shells on the ground? Really? So.
It's funny because of the fashionista thing. in one of the original episodes of Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? It's called Foul Play in Funland, and it's this robot who's basically controlling this amusement park when it's supposed to be closed. Anyway, so they go into the Tunnel of Love. Aww. And she falls in the water and whatever, and I can't remember what they said, something, you know, who was that or whatever, and she's all basically like, you know, I don't care, but whoever it was, I'll make them pay for what they did to my hair. And so Fashionista is going to stick with her so much.
It is her aesthetic.
I love, she changed her outfit and her hair for Curse of the 13th Ghost film because her wardrobe and her hair were different in the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo series. That was like one of her major change in looks.
Who's that, the purple that Angie was talking about?
Kind of. She's in she is in purple, but she's in a like jumpsuit. And then her hair is shorter, like maybe goes to about her shoulders, and then it has like curl floofs. I should show you. Okay. But then for the film, we do see her hair. It's like a little wink and nod moment of seeing her hairstyle from the original series. Okay. But then her outfit that she has for the movie, I love. And as much as I love her original design, I wish they would let Daphne have the outfit that and the hairstyle that she chose for this film for a little longer, because I loved it. It gave her a distinct new look, and it made you pay attention to her. It was like, Daphne, like, oh, you've changed. But anyway, let me show you how she looked. So here's what she looked in the series.
Okay. Yeah, she's got a little romper on going on.
Because that series actually aired before this one, A Pup Named Scooby-Doo. So that was a little more early 80s.
It's weird she doesn't have a headband in this one. And like she's got the longer bangs in front. I'm like, that is weird to see her in that one.
But then
give her a little bit more grown-up-y feel to it.
Exactly. But then in the film, I want her to stay in this outfit, at least for a little bit. Like, or even if they made a series and had her in there.
My child's in the back room speaking in hushed tones.
Uh-oh.
I always get really interested. It's Christmas. Hushed tones. What am I hearing? Ooh. She's got like yeah, that's a little more sex appeal on that one. I'm like, she's got the I don't know what they're called. Angie calls them Loki boots, where it's like villain up to the knee, and she's got the like utility belt thing happening.
Well, and there's a whole montage of her like getting into that and whatever. And Fred and Velma are in her room during that time, just kind of like, well, Velma's reading the book on the Chest of Demons and like trying to research what the crap went down and whatever. And, you know, Fred's just like trying to process everything. And anyway, so has the whole montage of her getting ready. And then once she's done, she turns around. Well, what do you think? And Fred's like, whoa, who are you?
I'm totally thinking Fred's got like crush.
Oh, yeah.
Zones this whole time from start to finish. He's Daphne crushing it.
But right now, Daphne's in like
pink little mini skirts.
Yeah. And white boots.
White boots with the white headband. It's very like 1960s go-go.
Yep. Exactly.
Aspect on her.
Well, that's the first episode of this series. She stepped in some mud or something, and she's like, she had a panic attack. Like, I got mud on my go-go boots, on my new ones. And then in Scooby-Doo 2, the live-action film, Shaggy and Scooby dress up, and Scooby puts on one of Velma's sweaters, and then... Well, like, they come in, and they're like, what are you doing? And, you know, they're like, well, we think the first step to solve a mystery is to wear the right attire. And so Shaggy goes, I'm sorry, Daff, but your go-go boots didn't fit me. And then Scooby pulls up his leg, and he's got them on. So, yeah, those go-go boots.
I'm feared.
And then, I was going to say something else, but now I totally forgot. Anyway, maybe it'll hit me. Anyway, that's really all I have for Daphne.
All right, me too. So, little Miss Velma.
Little Miss Velma, I don't have a lot for her.
Once again, she's got her computer in her suitcase. And not a lot.
Her first word is jinkies again. Mm-hmm. I noticed she said it twice. That's how many times I got it.
Oh, I didn't hear her say it twice.
Oh.
Oh. Time to rewatch. But her first sentence was like, "This way, trust me." And she pulls out a scissors and like zooms over to a wall. And all of a sudden she's like cutting out a doorway in this paper wall. And it was like, dude, how did you know that was going to be paper? Where did you get the scissors? What is you doing? Okay, those hush tones that I was just talking about with Angie just came out with a huge smile on her face.
It's going to be here by Friday.
Oh.
Her ring was sent off for cleaning. She has been without her engagement ring.
Like 3 weeks.
So was that Kelly you were talking to?
Yeah.
You said it was too early. Well,
it was. He's not supposed to get off till like midnight.
He did. He went to work at 2:15, so he got up early.
Ah.
This is what I know.
Welcome back.
Yay. Isn't she the one that finds the diary?
Scooby finds the diary.
Yeah,
on
Scooby
his
does.
He sneezes it onto her.
I'm impressed.
Okay, I must have been looking down writing something because all of a sudden I look up and she's got this book flying at her and it's a diary.
She takes it though. She's like, let me take that.
Let me take that.
Well, and they like spin through the wall, and then the next thing you know, it's sitting on Scooby's nose filled with dust.
Yeah.
Scooby picks it up, the dust flies, he sneezes, it sneezes the book right at her. She just takes the hit, and it's like, oh, a diary.
Okay.
Like we said before, Velma splits up with Scooby and Shaggy, and she makes the plan again.
Oh wait, well, the 3 that I've seen now. It's like, and the plan is,
Fred needs to step it up. He has not made one trap yet. Like, boy.
He's still little. He's still learning. He still believes in the Martians and says it out loud. So.
Yeah, you missed our end points with Fred and then our whole Daphne points.
No, I heard.
Oh.
It's really not
that far.
Yeah. There's no door. It's just a curtain. So.
Oh.
What you gonna do?
And that's all I had for Velma.
Velma was not.
Well, you talked about her half at the very, very beginning.
We did. We covered her.
That's true.
Because they kind of, I find with these characters, they like overlap into each other, and you can't just talk about one without talking about the other.
Because they all interact with each other the whole time.
That's so. Okay.
So, Shaggy, he says zoinks. He
I can't spell it.
is doing a monologue for every episode so far, like introducing us to what's going on. And so he introduces us that they are at their favorite TV game show, For Letter or Worse, at the TV station. Which we never found out what, at least that I recall, HB TV station stands for. But now that I'm looking at it, I know what it stands for.
Hanna-Barbera? What?
Yeah, Hanna-Barbera TV station.
Yes! I am on a roll tonight. Oh my gosh. Okay. I know things.
Good job.
This is why I'm here. Thanks for inviting me, so I can prove that I know things.
This is also the first time Shaggy specifically acknowledges Scooby as a puppy.
Yes, because the Brainy twins.
Yep. The Brady Bunch.
The Brainy Bunch.
Brainy Bunch.
Their puns are
real close. Yep.
Letter, Brainy, Cabone, like
we're just. But they're great. You have to go with them.
But it's the close puns that are always the best.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much all I have for Shag.
Oh.
He's just...
Well, I mean...
You're like, pages, and I'm like, he said zoinks.
Well, I had... So, they're the first contenders of tonight's game show, whatever. Him and Scooby get called down, and then they go against the Brainy Bunch, which... I'm guessing they're twins.
Bobby and Betsy.
Yes.
Oh, they're twins.
Okay.
The twins, Bobby and Betsy.
Twins.
It says so in the announcement.
And then so they're playing, and they have 0 points, and the Brainy Bunch had like 25,000.
Okay, so, details. Here we go.
Yes, here's the game show.
Here it is. So, they get Scooby and Shaggy up on this shelf, and the Brainy twins over here on this shelf. And they say, okay, and your word is, and it shows all of a sudden down the wall, like 27 squares. So all of a sudden they're having to pick this word. And Shaggy's like, what? What is that word? Oh my gosh, how many letters can you have in a word? And he's like freaking out. And all of a sudden Betsy Brainy goes, oh, I know what that word is. It's anti-disestablishmentarianism.
Yeah.
And it's like, ding, 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 ding. You just won 26,402 points.
No, it doesn't say what it is. They go through, it just shows that ding, 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 you won. And then it switches over, does the little bubble in, bubble out.
Mm-hmm.
They're on the very last round now. And they have 25,000 something other and change.
Like me. I'm like, dude, where are they getting this score from?
Yeah.
Then the bonus word, one singular word.
It's like the twins do their little fishing pole, the Z comes out, and she's like, there is no 5-letter word with 2 Z's in it. Scooby's like, our favorite word, pizza. And it goes, and for winning this bonus word, all of a sudden, like, their points start racking up.
Yep.
30,003 points. Where is your scoring system? I need to see proof. Break this down for me. How and what are you doing here?
So you can lose the whole game, but win by the last bonus round.
I'm like, this is so wrong, so wrong.
But so before they got to the bonus round, they both had, like, the cone of shame on their head.
The dunce cone.
The dunce cone. That.
That's one of my favorite, like, objects in the world. Because in their right mind, when a person is failing, says, oh, you're already down in the dumps. Let's stick this giant cone on your head and make it worse.
Okay, showing my age again. I have honestly wore a dunce cap in the corner.
Again, my point.
When I was in grade school. Okay, set in the picture. I had, like, extreme, like, level 10 dyslexia growing up. And that was not a thing. Nobody knew what dyslexia was. I just didn't read. I didn't do anything. And this was in first grade. And shows you how old I am. But I literally had a teacher put me over in, and it was a tall, the old-fashioned round-topped bar stools that you sit on. I had to go over in the corner, pick up this big, giant, white, pointy hat, and it had the word dunce written down the front of it. You had to pick it up, and it had a strap that went under your chin, and you were basically in timeout for not participating, or I wouldn't, it was a read out loud, like the Robin reading thing that she'd point to and you had to read, and I just sat there quietly. By the way, this was the same year that the principal told my mother he could take a plant around from room to room and it would learn more than I would. I became a teacher that year because I was like, I am going to be the anti-teacher of what all these people were. But anyway, sitting there in the timeout chair, you know, the whole class is like looking at you and you're sitting there with this big triangle dunce cap on your head. Going, this is helping no one. This does not make me want to go out there and be a smarter person.
This does not make me want to participate because now
the
I want
dunce
to wear
cap
for the sheer fact
pretty
of
much.
And the principal paddle went away a few years after that. They just, because I've been hit with the paddle too, the big wood paddle that's on the wall. They reach up, pull it down. grab your ankles, smack. Yeah, I've had that in my day.
Punishment.
Corporal punishment. It was back in my day.
It's illegal in 42 states.
But so I could see them do this. Same as, what did I write? Where was it? Let me check my notes really fast. Oh, at the end when they get the bonus round and what's his name? Davy the letter guy. He says, losers take a dive. And he pulls the thing and they fall. It made me think that nowadays, with nowadays day and age where like mental health, the kids have to feel successful all the time. You will not see a cartoon now that calls them losers. No. It's like, psh, that would be out. So that's like of its time period. We call people losers all the time. Yeah. You lost, you were a loser, and
you win,
you're a winner. And
you're a loser. It's the way things work.
But nowadays, it would be like affecting everyone's mental health if those people were losers and because they lost the game. They need a participation ribbon.
Mental health is important, but you don't need to sugarcoat.
No, well last year I watched the entire Flintstones, the original series, all the way through. And first of all, that series, it says plain on the box that it was the first animated primetime show for adults. But I'm like, yeah, watch that show. Because, I mean, you know, you think Flintstones, kids and whatever. Which, I mean, yeah, they can watch it. But, like...
That's because the adult humor goes right over small children's head. It's like Disney After Dark.
Well, that's... Yeah, you watch it and... Well, I mean, first of all, yes, the adult jokes is like, whoa, like, where was I? But then there's so many things said in that show that I'm like, well, that can't be played now. Like, the second episode...
Censored.
Do you know who the characters are? Fred and Barney? Mm-hmm. Okay. So, Barney creates basically a helicopter type thing. You know, it's not a thing in the Stone Age yet. And so he's all, you know, look, it flies, and like he got it to work and everything. And so Fred was like, oh, I want in on this. Like, let's make a profit on this. And anyway, so they're trying to use it, and Fred's trying to pump it to get it to go because you had to pedal and then it would spin the propellers and whatever. And he was just like going, and like he'd get up a little bit. Anyway, like Barney just flat out, "You're too fat, Fred." Like, yeah, that wouldn't be said anymore.
No.
And then I got into the later seasons, and two things. So one, yes, technically three. There's three things that I'm like, this would not be approved today. So one, there's an episode where there's like these cattle wrestlers and whatever, and they get caught, or they catch Fred and Barney at one point. Anyway, like, just cut to the next scene. They are at a tree. 2 ropes around their neck, and the guy's holding the rope. And they're just sitting there. I've sent you the picture. Yeah. Like, plain as day what they're about to do.
You're like, this would not go over. This would be R-rated now.
And then there's another one where there's like a gangster type dude, and he has little minions that he sends out and whatever.
Is that the one with the...
Yeah. So he's all... He sends me all these... The boss dude was all like... He had a gun, and he was just kind of like playing with it. I mean, again, it is Stone Age, so all it was a pebble. But... Anyway, so he's just kind of like shooting at stuff and whatever. Well, so he's shooting, but you don't see what he's shooting at. And then it cuts over, and there's a guy sitting, or like standing in front of him, and he has like a can or something on top of his head, and he's getting it and whatever, like shooting it. And basically before the scene ends, the guy who's standing with the can is like sitting there, you know, please don't do it and whatever. And he's all, what if you miss? And the guy's like, shut up, I never miss. And all you see, and then it cuts. And you're like, okay.
Wow.
Bye.
You're like, get men down.
And then there's one more where, I mean, it's a dream episode. Basically, Fred's like fearing that everyone's going to forget about him and everyone else is going to become more successful than him. So he dreams that Barney becomes this successful millionaire and whatever. They enter, or like Fred enters the house. First thing you see on the wall when they enter the house, naked woman. I'm like, okay. Like, anyway, yeah, it's just weird that how, I mean, even just TV, what can be portrayed now is just changed.
When it came out, they were much more conservative when the cartoon was made. Like, just people in general.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then they air that. And then you think about now, very conservative TV.
But back then, it was like, we would see those things on TV and they would talk about it and whatever. And that was a TV thing. Like shooting guns and, you know, that kind of thing. That never happened, you know, unless you were famous in Hollywood playing with the guns. You know, that was a Hollywood thing. That was not the kid next door shooting his brother. Or that was not the, you know, suicide. You go to school, you learn about 4 kids that tried to commit suicide. I mean, it was not a common everyday thing. So it was on TV and everybody knew.
Yeah.
That was sense. TV. That was not real life. And yeah, they didn't have to put do not try this at home because we didn't. Common sense ruled a little bit more than it does nowadays. And so
well, and it's interesting. I mean, Scooby-Doo for the most part has played it safe. Yeah. I mean, because I've watched. There's really nothing that I've picked out. I mean, there will once in a while. You're like, oh, I get it now. You know. Okay, Scooby Natural was.
Yeah. Well, the little bit, you know.
That was a supernatural.
Right on the line.
It doesn't count.
Exactly.
That's you don't.
Because that's on the supernatural side.
Yeah, exactly.
It was
not
100%
the Scooby-Doo side.
Supernatural, and I was down for it.
Oh yes.
But I think you're right that their content.
Well, so what I was getting at with that is, again, I'm kind of surprised that they did keep it pretty clean in the back, you know, in the older ones. But then we get to now. I mean, we got to the first live action film, and that one was supposed to be rated R. But then they were like, okay, we'll cut it down, whatever. But then in Mr. Incorporated, which I talked about a lot last week, that series is, besides Zombie Island, the original Zombie Island, Mr. Incorporated is the darkest Scooby has gone. And, I mean, so I want to say it's like the second to last episode. But, so there's a friend that they befriend throughout the series. Her name's, people at school call her Hot Dog Water because she smells like hot dog water. Her real name is Marcy. And she's voiced by the actress who played Velma in the first 2 live action films. Okay. But anyway, so like Velma really befriends her. And anyway, like second to last episode, there's like this, they're going to basically open this sarcophagus who's been holding this spirit in it, and the spirit wants free, blah, 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 blah. And so there's like this army of robots, and then the like people who are basically forcing the gang to go open this sarcophagus and whatever. And anyway, so I can't remember exactly like what they were trying, like what was going down, what was the conflict. I'd have to rewatch it, but basically they were like, someone has to stay behind or something. And, you know, and so they were all like, no, like, we won't, you know, it's the whole, we won't let anyone, you know, stay behind or whatever. And
no man left behind.
So finally, Hot Dog Water was like, you know, I'll take one for the team, blah, blah, blah. And so they're like, you know, okay, like, thank you so much, whatever. So they, like, they're, like, in a cave, and then they go into this next section, basically. And, you know, they're on a bridge, and they're a good distance. And it's one of those, like, I mean, have you ever watched, I mean, obviously you have, but, like, when you watch something happens, and you just, like, instantly get chills. Mm-hmm. And, okay, you have to remember, this is Scooby-Doo. Now, this Mystery Incorporated was definitely a more adult-oriented series. It was plainly said by the creators, like, we made this series for the old fans because we knew they could handle more of this stuff. Mm-hmm. But again, I will never forget this feeling of first watching it, because again, Scooby's more or less clean, you know, throughout. But anyway, so they're walking on the bridge, and you see Scooby. I mean, they're all kind of have like worried faces because they don't know what they're going to and whatever. And all of a sudden, Scooby just instantly, you know, like a dog can sense stuff, and so Scooby, you know, basically just almost like cowers, basically goes down, whatever, and you hear gunshots. They killed the girl that stayed behind. And so it's all, anyway, I will never forget that, because it's like, there, you know, there's music playing, kind of spent, and then as soon as that gunshot goes off, everything's silent, and Scooby just instantly, like, crap, she died because of us. Happened, And then, but then, like, the last episode, like, everything's going down. There's the spirit, the evil entity is what they call it. And, I mean, so, I mean, at that moment, you're like, oh my gosh, that happened. But then you get into the next episode, and, I mean, it is intense, but, like, this evil entity is just eating everyone alive. And you're like, well, her life apparently means nothing because everyone else can just get eaten now. So
killing people off left and right.
Anyway, after that whole, generations have changed.
Definitely. Definitely.
The cat paying attention, all of a sudden, like, boom, she's dead.
Oh, I love Mr. Incorporated. Again, that's where everything's going to connect. But, yeah, that was one of those moments of, like, Scooby just did that. So, are we on Scooby?
Yes.
Okay.
My favorite part is after eating the truckload of Scooby snacks, he's like walking around for like 5 minutes, like huge.
Yeah.
Huge. And then all of a sudden, Al Cabone comes in and is like on the other side. It's like a full body mirror thing. And Al Cabone takes the mirror part away and comes, you know, through the mirror and, you know, says his classic line thing, sounds just like Al Capone. And Scooby goes, ah! And all of a sudden his head, like, pops open and, like, air. Like, his mind is blown. And he just around the room. And all of a sudden he's skinny again. And I was like, wait. His food just went out his brain. And now he's skinny. And I'm like, was that just a head fart? Where all of his food.
A brain fart?
I just, I was like, oh, okay.
Well, so I have a comment about that because, again, still going with Scooby. So we meet this character who's basically trying to, like, get his own spot on TV. He's trying to impress this manager of the TV station, like singing and then doing some magic, and eventually he pulls Scooby's head through this hat, out of this hat, but then it, like, he pushes Scooby back in the hat, and then it cuts back to the gang and Scooby just pops up. And so I put magic real ? Which then I thought about it, and there will be a movie before the timeline shifts that's called Scooby-Doo and the Goblin King, and that whole movie is like, there's this magician who wants real magic, who wants to prove himself that he's a real magician, and long story short, he steals the magic of a fairy, who the fairy happens to be a daughter of the Goblin King, who is basically the ruler of the Halloween world, so to speak. So anyway, so then the magician guy is all, I'll give you back your daughter if you give me your scepter, your all-powerful scepter. And so, he's like, okay, fine, meet me at midnight and whatever. And anyway, so it's kind of interesting. We can connect this because we kind of saw the first indication of magic, and then we will eventually see magic actually happen. So random side note, I connected that so fast. I was like, oh, magic already. Wow. So anyway, so Scooby sees the ghost first this episode.
Yes.
And he saw the ghost first in the first 2 episodes. And so it's almost like a trend right now of Scooby runs into the ghost first, which I thought was interesting. And then he fish hooks Davy's pants during the game show.
Oh, yes. Can I have my pants back?
Yeah. And then, let's see, what else do I have? Oh, well, like we said, Scooby eventually went and got a forklift to get Daphne to move.
Yes.
Which I was surprised he knew how to operate that thing, but
What doesn't Scooby know how to do?
Yeah, exactly.
I heard they're fairly easy. Never driven a forklift in my life, but I've heard rumor.
And then also, like we said, he finds that diary, which is a clue which, again, Velma kind of looks into. And that's all I have for the gang.
That's all I got.
Okay, so now we can move on to side characters. We had a bunch of side characters, I feel like, in this episode. But then the plot twist was
Ding, ding, ding,
they were, a lot of them were all one person. So we had Davy, who is
the letter guy.
Yeah, the letter guy, the host of the game show. And he actually, we learn, he got his show, For Letter or Worse, got promoted to an hour-long show.
Because Pristina's, who had a magic show, her show got deleted so that he could extend his show.
Yep.
And we see her at the beginning being all sweet and friendly. Oh, Davy, I'm really glad your show got extended. He's like, well, I thought you'd be mad. And she's like, oh, no, I'm fine.
I remember she says, that's just showbiz.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Facial reaction when Davy was like straightening his bow tie, putting his on. Ooh, it was not a happy one. And then he looks over, she changes it immediately.
Yep. But we don't see her again after that.
We don't.
It's very plot twisty.
But
yes.
When she's like walking away, the thing I notice most is Daphne says, like, she's talking about how fashionista she is. She's like, oh, I love her fashion, especially her dress and that ring. And she's got her hand up in the air pointing, and it does like a close-up, like,
yeah.
I felt like last time we talked about how every time there was a clue, that big word like clue came across. I felt like when she did the ring, we should have seen the word clue right across the ring, because that's where my mind went when every single character that we met after that was like, we meet Pop O'Connor, an old guy in overalls, like sitting out front saying, yeah, I used to be a stagehand here and whatever. And he like moves and there's a flash come from his hand. And then the bad singer magician Mel that we meet, he's got like rings on both hands, and it's the exact same ring every single time. So I'm like, there's a connection here.
Well, it was so funny. Well, so first you were like, every character, you were like, oh, do they have a ring? Do you see a ring and whatever? And then it was so great. So we were, just watching the episode, taking the notes, and she goes, what would be great is if all these characters, and again, we thought her name was Christina at first, but she was like, if Pristina was all these people, all these different characters and whatever,
they scoffed at me.
Called it so quickly.
Yes.
It was amazing, honestly. So, Pops O'Connor.
Kind of looked like a love Todd O'Connor, so let's just start there.
So he, again, is a character of Pristina, but we don't learn that until the end of the episode. But as far as his character, he knew the history of Al Capone. He told the gang kind of, you know, who he was and what he had done. And then we also learned that he was supposedly a famous radio star before the radio station was turned into the TV station.
Yeah. And so I'm thinking that's probably where Pristine used that, because she probably knew of the diary, like being there.
Yeah.
And found the diary and was like, oh, I can use this to set the stage for who I need it to be.
Makes sense. And then we had the Great Mel, which, again, he was the one, like, trying to get his own TV show, you know, by singing and with magic, which made sense later on because Pristina had her own magic show. Yeah, and so, but it was weird that he couldn't do magic.
I know. Pristine was, like, really good at it.
Yeah.
And he was really bad.
Did we ever see her do magic, though?
Ooh.
Oh. Maybe that's why it got canceled.
Maybe she was bad at it.
Yeah. Anyone said, do you like her show? And she was like, ew, no.
But I love her fashion sense.
Yeah. Okay.
So maybe
she was
bad at magic. Again, we never see her do magic.
Yeah, that makes sense.
See,
good eye, girl.
Here. I didn't
this
take
is why
notes, I just watched it.
And that's all I had for the other characters. Again, no red herring. He was not present in the episode, but he was mentioned and shown. And yeah.
And then they solved the mystery by, I have a plan. And then the plan is they actually go in and the gang does the game show.
Yes.
And they say, our first contestant is Scoob. Come on in. Shaggy the letter guy.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the spotlight zooms over to the ghost. And Al Cabone, you're our second player.
Well, and this is where I was like, oh, her name's not Christina. It's Pristina, because there was a P on the board, and I'm like, who have we met that starts with a P?
I started looking at my notes. I'm like, there is not a name that starts with P. I was like, Pop O'Connor, but then it had too many letters. So I was like...
Well, so at first we saw on the board, it was, is the ghost. Mm-hmm. And they were basically filling the letters for the name. And it started out with P. Like, that was one of the first letters. And I was like, who? What?
What is happening?
So, yeah. And then the villain for this episode, again, we've been mentioning him. He is the ghost of Al Cabone, a play-on of Al Capone. And I didn't have a lot for him, but basically he's, you know, in like a purple jacket. Didn't he have a flower on his in the pocket? And
it was a classic zoot suit. Like old mobster style.
Pinstripe.
Yeah, pinstripe.
It was a full blue and white pinstripe suit.
The only difference between when Pop O'Connor was like doing a flashback is the Al Cabone that he was talking on had the really short dark hair. But as the ghost, he had the long, ghostly looking, kind of a whitish blonde.
It was the same color as Christina's hair.
No, it wasn't, because Pristina's had more of like a yellow hue to it. This was more like if you were to throw like flour on blonde hair, it did like the glowy ghost looking thing.
Yellow.
And I mean, he was a skeleton. Because Al Cabone. Yeah. So, you know, he was dead. And he had the hat. So I liked his presentation. I did not love, I loved his presentation, but I didn't love him as a whole of a villain because I felt like he didn't do anything but show up and be like, boo.
And they were doing the real Al Capone had like, very smart man, but he had like a weird accent kind of thing. Like he talked like
Italian immigrants.
Yeah, Italian immigrants, and
he had the deep city Chicago with an Italian.
Yeah, and he wasn't very educated and type thing. So, kind of what has turned into a stereotype for Al Capone, I felt like they grasped onto that, and he only said like his 2 or 3 little punchlines and didn't really talk. It was like he'd come in and he'd say his punchline and then he'd float away, and it'd be like,
which is interesting.
Not a lot of substance in this
villain. My girlfriend and I, Mariah, about almost 2 years ago now, we had been trying to do a series on my YouTube channel called the Scooby-Doo Tube, and basically we were watching and reviewing more or less each episode, but we were doing it in the order of release. And one thing that we always would talk about with the villain is basically, did they talk? Did they make a noise? How did we feel about that for the character? Like the Black Knight Ghost, which was the very first episode of Scooby-Doo ever. The Black Knight never talked, but sometimes he'd kind of grunt and whatever. And we felt for that it fit him because, you know, it's like this soul has taken over this black suit of armor, you know, and so you don't really expect it to talk. Whereas, you know, Al Cabone, where he's the ghost of a human, more or less, I felt like it was okay for him to talk. So
should have had a lot more to say.
Way more to say. Yeah. Again, I loved his appearance, but I didn't love what he did because he just like would show up and boo, and then they'd run away.
Yeah.
And it was almost like Dr. Croker in the last episode. I felt like he didn't do a whole lot. Again, he had his tongue.
Yeah.
But like we didn't really see that until the end of the episode as him breaking into stuff.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, bam, here's my tongue.
Yeah.
And we're done with it.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what this guy does. Like the very end, they go back and forth on, okay, what letter do you want? And he's just angry because they pulled him onto the thing, and he goes, "Arr!"
Yeah,
and
exactly.
He's like, oh, letter R? Nope, that's not there. Or, you know, and it was like, wait, he didn't even play.
Yeah.
And then they just went to Scooby, and all of a sudden, a little flash forward, and the whole puzzle solved.
Yeah, because
it was
Scooby
like,
kept getting it right so he could guess more letters. And Al Cabone was like, hey, what about me? He's like, it's not your turn yet. And he was like upset about it.
Yeah.
Like,
but that was
he's
really...
Like, you pulled me up here to play and then don't let me play.
That was really his only sentence that he said, is like, what about my turn?
Yeah, uh-huh.
Otherwise it was like, yes, hey.
And then it was like, yes, hey, yeah. I'm like...
The first episode of this series, the ghost was... such a creative name. The Green Ghost. But... he's basically this blob of, like, green goo. And I will say, like, so far, I feel like that villain that we've seen has had the most to do because he would talk, but it was, I mean, he had a scary voice, so to speak, but it was very, like, when he would talk, it was threatening stuff. It's like, you know, like, you know, don't like touch that, get away, you know. And one thing that I liked, just a little detail from him, was that his tongue was...
Issues with tongue.
I know, but his tongue was like his face, then it'd go to a smaller face and a smaller face and a smaller face. And there was one scene where it all came out, and like, basically he said something, then a little one came and said the same thing, do, and gets to the end, and then the little one like goes right up to Scooby and Shaggy and is like, boo, you know. And it was just a little detail like that I enjoyed, you know. Like, it didn't have, you know, they didn't like bring it up in the, like, once they solved the mystery, they weren't like, and this tongue, you know. It was just like one of those little things to add to the character, but not make it this big deal type of thing, you know. And I just feel like they're missing that with some of these villains right now.
They could be fabulous.
Yeah.
fabulous. I mean, because the real Al Capone was like a very scary, ominous, like, he'd walk, you know, you see old movies, like old video newsreel kind of thing of him walk into the room and everybody just kind of takes a step away back and whatever.
Yeah.
So he wasn't, the real Al Capone was not a very big dude.
Yeah,
but his presence was just
there and
large.
Yes.
He'd walk in and take all the energy in the room. And you were like,
and really, for a man that spent 40-something years avoiding police and not being caught and being a major villain, I mean, dude had street smarts.
Yeah.
Seriously. So I think they could have taken that and put... You'd think I was a fan of mobsters. Anyway,
your daughter is, so
that's what I really sound like right now. Okay, I just had a thought.
Again,
anyway,
your daughter is, so you know them.
But you would think that they would have taken actual Al Capone stuff and incorporated it into this villain instead of just using his name as a pun and stereotyping him. It was like, okay. They could have,
though.
Because I feel like sometimes Scooby-Doo takes things and educates kids through there. So it was like, take this moment, educate kids on who Al Capone was.
You learn a lot about a siren and
I'm
a
like,
banshee.
Yeah.
You learn the difference between the two.
A siren and a banshee. Right. So they could have, so I'm like, maybe they're just not into the, like later on, they do more of the teaching type thing, and they haven't quite got there in this one
There's
yet.
an episode that, I mean, aired before this. It's a part of the Scooby-Doo show. It was the 3rd series, I want to say. Anyway, and it's, I believe the title is The Headless Horseman of Halloween. And, you know, so it's the Headless Horseman. And I really enjoy that episode because it takes the source material of the Headless Horseman and basically says, what if he came back? And so, you know, it explains the story, the original story of the Headless Horseman, and then is like, oh no, he's returned, basically. And that's, you know, kind of an example of educating, you know, in a short amount of time what this story was about. And then there's also another episode within that same series, I believe it's called To Switch a Witch. And it's all, I mean, pretty much all about the Salem witch trials. And they think this witch has come back, and so this town's like, we gotta go back to our roots. We gotta, you know, get this witch and drown her until she emits and whatever. And it explains the history of Salem and, you know, and so, yeah, I feel like right now they are missing the ball on these. And I'm like, get it together. I need info.
The best part about a villain is the
backstory.
That's what makes a villain a villain.
Well, and that's...
If you have a poor backstory, you have a poor villain. It's just...
Yeah. I keep going to this movie. We need... You know, we might just need to watch this series and watch it before we do the podcast, but The Curse of the 13th Ghost... again, they're capturing the final ghost, the 13th ghost, and he's supposed to be the most powerful, but we got this, like, huge, long history of who the 13th ghost was, and, I mean, not to go full into it, but more or less it was that the Vincent Price character, he plays Vincent Van Ghoul, and basically, he finally admits to the gang, he's like, okay, here's the deal, here's kind of why, you know, like, this last ghost is such a big deal, blah, blah, blah. It's my ancestor. He was evil, an evil warlock, and he, you know, basically tortured people and all this. And they caught him in this chest of demons, and, you know, I released him by accident, and I had to trap him in again, and so to face him was really hard, and then you guys released him again, and... So then there's, like, this last, I mean, towards the end of the film, where it's Vincent Van Ghoul, and the demon's name is Asmodeus, which is, we learn that the name has kind of changed from what his actual ancestor's name was, his ancestor's name was something to do with Asmodeus, but a little different. But anyways, there's this moment of Vincent Van Gogh confronting Asmodeus, and is basically like, you don't have to do this. You can change your ways. Like, you just basically, confronting him of, after all these years, this is still what you want to do and all this. And that's like, many people have very strong opinions about that film, mainly because of how it ended. But I love that movie because of how it ended, because it has so much of a backstory to the Chest of Demons, to Vincent Van Gogh, to, these monsters that they caught throughout the series that, we didn't get in these 20-minute episodes throughout the series. I mean, we did get history for each villain throughout the episode, but it was, the whole thing was...
bit more depth.
Well, yeah, and it's like, we're getting up to the final demon who's supposed to be the most powerful and whatever. And throughout the whole series, we never learn why. It's just like, he's the most powerful and whatever. And then we get to this movie and we're like, holy crap, he's connected to Vincent Van Gogh. This is why it's such a big deal. And so, yeah, again, as you were saying, a backstory to a villain is what sells it. Like... And yeah, right now we are missing that.
We're missing our backstories big time with these last two.
Again, the criminal was Pristina. She was upset about her show getting canceled. And this is a little fun fact. She is the first female criminal.
Ooh, go Pristina.
So, like we do every episode, do you think she has enough of a motive to come back for revenge? Again, I know if they do or not.
See, I feel like this puts pressure on me every time you ask me this question. I'm like, the answer. I'm being set up for this one.
The gallery says no.
Well,
we gotta know.
I kind of feel like...
It seems lackluster.
She kind of wants to be captured, because if you watch, she's like... Well, fine, okay, I did that. And, like, her hands are already outstretched before the cop guy or whoever comes over to arrest her. Yeah. She's, like, sticking her hands out, like, here, arrest me, whatever, I would have gotten away with this, type thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, girl, you're not even trying to not be caught. And so, but I don't think that she comes back because she really... kind of all over the place.
Again, we see her, like, her actual, not in her characters, we see her twice in the whole episode.
Yeah. And even as her different characters, I mean, they weren't trying to take over the world.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Like, the magician, the bad magician singer Mel, just wanted a show. And the only thing he even says related to ghost hunting or whatever is he says, if I get hired, this ghost will go away. And that was the only thing that he said related to it. And then
that doesn't tell you who the bad guy is.
Yeah. And then Pop O'Connor was like,
I guess I have to go find a new job.
He didn't try to steer him away. He didn't whatever. He's like, this is who Al Cabone is. Oh, I better go find another job.
Yeah.
It seemed very...
Okay. It was just... There was not a lot of thought put into this. So I'd have to say no, she doesn't come back.
She does not. At least right now. I have to keep pointing that out. Because again, she might in future content. But yeah, we haven't seen her come back.
No. She doesn't
it's... Well, it's interesting because, like... It's interesting what, like, a motive... enough would be to come back, because Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed, the second live-action film, that whole movie is a revenge plot.
But it's a good revenge plot.
But here's the thing, okay? So with that one, I mean, we'll really dive into it once we get to that film and the episode.
You
that
have so much to say. What's your favorite?
Yes, it's my favorite. That podcast episode is probably gonna be like 5 hours.
You'll have parts.
Yeah, really though.
Like,
Part 1, Part 2.
But so the villain in that one, spoiler alert, I mean it's been out how long? Is Dr. Jonathan Jacobo. And he, in the film, he, like, was trying to create monsters. That was like his goal in life, basically. And he gets put into prison because of his original, you know, why they threw him in jail. He posed as the pterodactyl ghost.
Oh.
And what?
I'm not gonna lie, I enjoyed that ghost.
I might have seen
you know who that ghost is.
I might have seen that one.
And
if you see that one, you'd know.
Okay.
So yeah, well then everybody believed that he was trying to escape from prison and he basically drowned himself. That's what everyone thought, and then obviously, well, surprise, he's still alive, and this was a whole revenge plot, which is, again, interesting, like he wanted revenge because, like, he didn't get to complete his life's goal of making monsters, and then his revenge was making monsters. It's like...
It's a little off.
Yeah, well, but then you watch the original episode, and the original motive for him in the original episode, because that criminal and that monster was in the Scooby-Doo show, again, which is like a 1970s episode. So, I mean, it had been 30 or so years since the episode. But the original episode was that he was using a pterodactyl ghost costume to fly over pirated CDs. And so, like, where did they just decide, you know what? He has the perfect motive to come back.
Yeah. No. Okay. Those pirated CDs, though.
And then...
Hey, they're a big thing in the old movies. You turn on and it's like... They've got a whole entire, like, 5-minute ad about why you shouldn't pirate CDs. It's a thing.
It's like...
Apparently.
But then, like, I was talking about earlier, Scooby-Doo Franken-Creepy. That whole movie's a revenge plot. That actually has 3 criminals that are from original episodes. 1 is from the Scooby-Doo show, and then 2 are from the original series, Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? 1 is one of the Phantom Shadows from A Night of Fright No Delight, which is the episode the Supernatural crossover took place in. And
You still haven't seen that?
I actually believe that one had a good motive to come back, because that whole episode is there's an old general who has passed away, and whoever can stay the night the longest in his mansion house thing gets his fortune, basically. And Scooby was put in his will, and so the gang stay, blah blah blah. Anyway, so, you know, they caught him and whatever, so the guy doesn't get the fortune. I can see that as like, no, give me back that fortune.
Because, yeah, Scooby affected his future life.
Scooby got
somehow.
the fortune, so, like, LOL, plot.
Yeah.
Money.
And then I want to say one of the other ones was the Ghost of Redbeard. And I'm trying to think what his criminal plan was. I don't know. I'll have to rewatch that one. And then the last one was the Ghost of Mamba Wamba.
I want to be in the room where it happens, that they come up with the titles and the ghost names.
Well, I've like
room where it happens.
Listened to so many things and read so many different things of like people asking, okay, how do you do it? Like, do you come up with the monster first, or like the story first, or whatever? And a lot of it actually is that they'll come up with the story and the criminal's motive and whatever, and then they're like, okay, fit a monster into that setting, you know, whatever. And speaking of the Supernatural crossover, because whenever they give someone the opportunity to do something Scooby, like whether it be a new series or a movie, you know, they have this guideline of like, you have to stick to this, you have to have this, you have to, and a lot of them say you have to have the 3 F's, and it was like something like frights, I can't remember all of them, but like frights and flashlights was one. But anyway, so there's kind of this more or less strict guideline of, this is how it can go. Here are your leeways. Here's what you can and can't do, blah, blah, blah. For the crossover with Supernatural, that the writers and everything, which one of the writers for that episode is who wrote the story for Return to Zombie Island. Okay. And for this Supernatural episode, they were like, okay, like we want to do this. How can we do this? Blah, blah, blah. And that was one of the rare projects that involved Scooby where they literally were like, surprise us.
Because they had to match Supernatural's thing too. And for Supernatural to actually have an episode, you have to have like a gore, basically a death, and basically like weapons.
Yeah.
Like you have to have those for Supernatural because, girlfriend, they monster hunters.
It's their thing.
It's their family business.
Yeah.
You gotta get what you get.
I'm the Peanut Gallery. I cannot comment on this one. Have not seen it yet.
Though they still didn't break the rule, they did not give Scooby-Doo weapons, actually.
No.
So that did not break either rule. They were there, but Scooby-Doo didn't use them. So it's fine.
Yay!
Okay, and then my little section, because it's hard for you to join in with this, my timeline little section. So, overall, I mean, it's so hard right now to make a timeline because we're still so early. But my one thing that I have, did they finally go out of Coolsville? Did we ever get confirmation that the station was in Coolsville?
What is the station called?
HPTV station.
So what's the HB stand?
Hanna-Barbera, which is the creator of...
We discussed this. You were probably...
Well, I know who Hanna-Barbera is. So,
Well, I guessed it right.
I wonder if I can look it up.
Because they're still kids, so you wouldn't think that they would go too far out of Coolsville.
You think.
You have to listen to last week's podcast. We spent a good chunk of time on that.
And again, I haven't. I'm just voicing my Peanut Gallery opinion.
Those of you listening can refer back to last week's episode.
If you are confused.
Okay, no, it's saying that HBTV is in Coolsville, so they have not left Coolsville still. Okay. We are stuck in Coolsville right now, which is fine because we're kind of making a map, more or less, of Coolsville.
Yeah, and they really don't leave the station at all, so
No.
we can't really place where it is in the town. They go into the parking lot when they drive Daphne out in the forklift, but it really doesn't show where in the time or in the town it might be located.
We don't see anything around really. So, I mean, we didn't get any family thing. I know for a fact the next episode we will be meeting Shaggy's baby sister. So we're gonna finally get some family connections here. We didn't get any from any of the other characters this episode, and we still have not seen them in school. Do these kids not go to school?
Really want. It must be summertime.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like, well, maybe because Shaggy had a job at the beginning of the series, so maybe it was like a summer job. So.
And Red Herring wasn't there, so he's he's on vacation.
Yeah,
summer
true.
vacay.
Oh, and then last little note is we had a romp, but it was like 15 seconds.
It was mini. I did remember the word romp. Yes, thank you. Learned that last week. But yeah, super, super short. Did they even like run very far?
No.
It was like from one room to the other.
I mean, technically, when I look on Scoobypedia, which is a website full of Scooby information, technically they didn't have a romp this episode because the music that plays, at least in this series, ties in specifically to what's going on. Like
it was the TV show music.
Oh, was it?
Uh-huh.
So
it was like the intro music was playing.
Yeah, but like for the romps, if you listen, I'd have to like for the second episode, the monster is like this purple blob octopus, and like his mouth is above his eye and whatever. And basically the music is talking about the monster, and like at one point it says like he's got his eye on you and whatever. And so like the music that usually plays in this series is basically explaining what's going on. And at least for this episode, yeah, all we got was kind of a overall series song, just like Scooby-Doo. Like,
where like last week it was an entire like 10-minute dance break.
Yeah, they stopped to dance last week.
What is happening? But this one, it was like they ran into the other room and they were like Scooby-Doo, and then it went into the intro music thing.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, was that a romp? And by the time I asked the question, it was over. Oh, okay, guess it was.
Moving on. So that's all I have. We made it.
Bye.
So thank you for joining me once more. Thank you for our audience.
Yay, Angelou.
That's my sound I'm here.
We
If
have.
you haven't already listened to her episode, she was in chapter 3. Maybe
At the time recording, we have yet to actually.
Yeah. So as of
We're going out of order.
that's what I thought
Makes this timeline great.
when you were like, well, all the villains we've seen so far. Angie, what's your villain?
You know what?
She
know.
just got finished with college finals.
Yeah.
So she's excused for a minute, but that's the only reason she's excused from this.
Yes.
We skipped over her because of college finals.
We're filming out of order. Who says we have to record it in order? Just makes our timeline a lot greater.
Oh yes.
Right.
Well, then we can connect later stuff to
Right.
it. So.
Right.
Yeah, that's why I haven't said like anything of episode 3 is because we haven't done it yet as of recording this one. So, but as of recording this one, we have made it through our first month of the podcast. I know originally I had said we were going to do 2 a week, but once again, Mariah's not feeling well, and so we can't produce as many episodes as fast because I got to get together with people to produce these now, and so it's not as easy to just be like, Mariah.
And we don't take as great notes as Mariah does.
Oh, and Jish.
The woman, bow down to her.
Might be a little bit like
So,
easier to understand with Mariah.
Queen Bee,
'cause her
love you,
notes
girl. You need to get better and come back. So,
As much as we like doing this, we can still do it with her.
we miss you.
Oh, yeah.
Bring her back.
So we are doing 1 episode a week right now, and you guys voted to do Tuesdays, but yes, episode 5 has brought us to the end of January's episodes. So thank you all for listening and tuning in. Thank you for bearing with us. We just have lots of guests right now. I have even new guests coming on for later episodes. I have a friend London coming on and another friend Tyson, and I have some other podcasters coming on that do other Scooby-Doo podcasts as well. So I just got lots of friends going to join me, but I appreciate Anissa for just being available so that I can get as many of these done as I can right now. So you're going to hear her quite a bit, honestly, because I'm honestly like, hey, I'm not doing anything. Are you doing anything? Let's do an episode. So she's great. Thank you.
It's not hard to say her and plan a wedding. I could pause for podcasts.
So that's gonna do it for this episode. Hope you all enjoyed. Again, thank you for joining me, Anissa.
Anytime.
And
We'll be back.
oh yes, you better. And that's going to do it. So we'll catch you in our next one.
On the flip side.
Bye. Bye.